Good. Hello, everyone, and welcome to CodeCast by STL Tech Talk, where we're bringing you the content you want and need: instructional, informative, unique, and insightful commentary on programming and technology. Coming to you live, my name is JJ Hammond, and I'm joined tonight by two coding experts. Up first, whether playing on the local Radio Shack's TRS-80 or designing systems for clients around the globe, he insists on staying heavily involved and up to date on all aspects of software application design and development, projecting that diversity onto the type of training and consulting he provides to his customers, and believes that it's never just about understanding the technologies, but how those technologies work together. He has been a Microsoft MVP since 2005, and when he's not consulting or training, he speaks at conferences around the world, practices combining on-stage tech and comedy, and never misses a Formula One race. Best of all, he's a proud father of a tech-savvy 10-year-old and a proud husband of that girl, and the undisputed champion of fill-in-the-blank here, Miguel Castro. Hello, Miguel, and thank you for being back on the show.
Did you just, thank you very much. Did you just combine father of a 10-year-old girl and proud husband of that girl? Is that what I heard you say?
I think you did.
That's exactly what you said. What am I, West Virginian or something?
You could be. I don't know you that well. So thank you for being on the show. However, this show is not possible without my fellow host, striving to bring development knowledges to the masses, and has spent the last 20 years architecting and implementing highly scalable ASP.NET applications. Who in the world writes my show notes? Our very own Gus Emery. Say hello, Gus.
Hey, JJ Miguel, nice to see you again. Can't wait to see you next week in person.
Yep.
Oh, Gus and
Thanks for coming on.
Miguel, I have so much I want to say to you. And are you ready for a fantastic show? Of course you are. Twitter, #CodeCast, so you can follow the show, or at STL Codecast. Also, you can find us on Facebook, STL Tech Talk, Google+, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, or listen directly from our site. Also, go to stltechtalk.com to keep up with our tech news, podcasts, CodeCast, programming code, hands-on review, event coverage, and much, much more. And don't forget, you can interact with the show by sending us feedback to podcast@stltechtalk.com. And I didn't shut my phone off. I'm just all over the place, and we will do our best to answer those questions in a timely manner. A special thank you goes out to Mark Miller, our last guest. A phenomenal job, and we are still looking through the applications for his keyboard design that he's going to be doing a giveaway that he so graciously is allowing us to facilitate, so we thank him for that as well. Also, I wanted to take a moment to thank the sponsors of our show, Inertia Software. Gus, this is where you bring up the cup, and it's right there. Creating cutting-edge, highly scalable Microsoft technological solutions to the energy industry. Visit inertia-software.com to see how you can be helped. And Tech Systems. Our people make IT possible. People are at the heart of every successful business. Every year, Tech System deploys over 80,000 IT professionals at 6,000 client sites across North America, Europe, and Asia. With IT staffing solutions, IT talent management, and IT services, complement and enhance your in-house skills and capabilities. Optimize how you attract, develop, and retain great IT people. Achieve business goals and manage those projects and outsource services. Contact Tech Systems today by visiting them on the web at techsystems.com or call them at 314-819-111. I don't know how many ones I just said, but they're all ones. Then there's 4 of them. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick off the show with arguably my favorite guest, Miguel Castro. Not just because I think you're, an incest-breeding individual, which, by the way, stay in school, kids, and don't do drugs. This is a family show. How are you doing, and what have you been up to since the last time you were on our show, sir?
Well, after hearing you talk all that, I'm exhausted. Holy cow, I don't think I'm going to can process anything else tonight, man. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on. What have I been up to since last we spoke? My God. Breaking the #1 rule that I promised myself at the beginning of this year I was not going to break, and that is I was not going to overcommit myself. That rule has gone to the shit house. Can you
Okay.
beep? Can you bleep?
We're gonna have to.
You're gonna have to, aren't you?
That's right.
You know, I have a hard time saying no to existing customers. I did promise myself I wouldn't take on any new customers, and I haven't, just because I'm so bogged down. But the customers that I do have kept me around for quite some time. Apparently, they like my work, which is always great. It's always flattering, and it, you know, keeps food on the table. And when you got good customers like that, you don't want to treat them like gold. Is what you want to do.
Right.
You don't want to mess up, and you don't want to, you know. I don't want to say you don't want to say no, because you got to learn how to say no to a customer to a specific task. You just got to know how to word it and how to turn it around and saying, this is what I think you should have.
Right.
But that doesn't diminish the quantity of work. It just
Right.
diminishes the way you approach that work. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what's been going on. Just that was a long version of just a short answer of just client commitments. I've taken a couple of conferences off my schedule this year, so I've had a couple of less international trips because of this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's one of those things where every week that I'm away, it's forget about the hourly billing. I don't want to get into that. I promised myself I'd never get back into the thing where I always think about nothing but hourly billing. It's the fact that you're away from a project.
Sure.
And hard to come back into a task after a week. And I've tried not to do that this year, but the end result is that I'm constantly burning the candle at both ends.
Right.
So, you know, if not working for clients, I do have, you know, conference stuff and Pluralsight stuff now also.
Right.
So that's, you know, that's been going really well, and I'm working on my 4th course now. Just a bunch of things at once, you know. I need to keep myself organized with an electronic organizer. Do you know of one that has recently been released? No, actually, I live on mine. So,
Right.
so yeah, it's been going well, just nonstop. And as always, you try to squeeze a little family in there. You try to squeeze a lot of family in there, and also some extracurricular stuff. I've also made it a point this year to make sure I do other things in my life besides write code.
Okay.
I just think it's necessary, and I think it helps you write better code, because it becomes one of those left brain, right brain things. You know what I mean? You exercise your mind a different way,
Absolutely.
and it helps you solve problems when you are in front of the screen.
Yeah, it helps when you're walking up a flight of stairs and they're literally just a couple of stairs that I just call a flight of stairs, and you're out of breath. You're like, I gotta change something. So, and the other thing too is, and it's interesting you brought this up, was we were speaking with a guy who is kind of a life coach for, and I know how that sounds, trust me, but it kind of
about John.
yeah, John Sonmez. Do you know
Yep.
him?
Yeah,
Okay.
very well.
So I really respect the guy's information that he gives out.
By the way, you don't have to take a negative approach to that title, because my wife's in that line of work. So
yeah, no, but I mean it's one of those things that it's like a hippie thing or whatever.
It's just that's a stupid term. It's actually called coactive coaching, and my wife does it.
Right. But you have to dumb it down, right, for people to kind of like understand it. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, what he was saying was you need to plan your life like you're not going to make it after 5 years. Not in a bad, depressed, sickening, morbid way, but just like, what is your plan? Like, how do you plan to get from point A to point B, and how you schedule out like your day, just as if you were to do it for a program to be more efficient or whatever the case.
Absolutely.
May be. Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a comedian that I heard a long time ago that said, you know, the old cliche, live every day like it's your last, right? So he goes, well, last night I just sat in my bed with a bunch of tubes up my nose.
Sure. Well, you could do that too. Yeah, and
it wouldn't be as fun though.
yeah, it might not be as fun, but I mean, I definitely think that's interesting, and I'm glad that you can tailor your schedule like that a little bit. But I
have forced myself. It's been a challenge.
I was getting ready to say I'm kind of the way where things eat at me. Like I feel like even though I'm taking some time off, and this is a me thing, that I'm like, hey man, you really could be knocking this project out. I'm like, I know, dude. You sit there, you have this whole conversation with yourself, and then you find yourself in front of the computer working again, instead of maybe doing some things that would be more productive in some form of fashion. I don't mean like washing the dishes or whatever. I'm saying like actually taking out the time to have dedicated time set aside, to work out or to work on your car in your case, or Gus in your case, work on your motorcycle, and me dream about working on Gus's motorcycle that was my motorcycle, but that's neither here nor there. So it's important to do all those things, and it's interesting to hear you say that you're trying to manage that.
It is, and I know what you mean about you. Sometimes you get to feel a little guilty. I should be working on code or kicking project off. But let me tell you, I'm going to elaborate a little more on that statement that I said about doing other activities actually helps you program better. I joke. I said it kind of in jest about the whole left brain, right brain thing, but it really wasn't a joke. I think there's really something to that because
there is.
Well, I have found myself. Gus, you relate to this one. I have found myself in the shooting range where the answer to a problem all of a sudden comes to me after I finished emptying a magazine. and seriously, it's really weird, right? And I put the handgun down and I go to my phone and I email myself what just came to me. And this has happened to me 2 or 3 times in different situations. This one's will make you giggle also because I was coming back from Pennsylvania. I was at my tuners actually, getting my car tuned, the gear tuning, and I was on the highway and I decided to open it up a little bit, right? So I was doing about 130 miles an hour. For any of you law enforcement types out there, this is in the metric system, by the way, and. And in the middle, just 2 or 3 minutes into hitting that speed, and I know the speed has nothing to do with it, but I was driving fast, which is something I enjoy doing.
Sure.
And whether it's the adrenaline that kicked in or whatever, but all of a sudden something that it was eating on me for 2 days that I couldn't figure out an answer, and it was part of the project that I'm working on. An answer just came to me. The sad part is I had to slow down because not only is texting bad while driving, kids, but doing it at 130 is definitely not advisable.
And coding while you're going that fast is literally like sticking a gun in your mouth.
So I pulled over to the side of the road, and once again I emailed me the idea that for some reason, as weird as it may sound, it literally just popped into my head. All of a sudden it was like, oh crap, that's what I need to do. And sure as hell, the next morning, when I see my emails, I implement that idea, and this is the same story from the gun range incident. It happened the exact same way, and it helped me solve a problem I was working on for like 2 days. Just trying different things, and like Thomas Edison said, I didn't have 15 failures. I found 15 ways of not solving the problem, and the 16th way worked perfectly. And both of these, and this happened 2 or 3 other times also, doing other activities, and these things just. These answers come to you while your brain is exercising something else. It's a different take on the old saying about you hammered away at a problem. What do people advise? Get up, walk away. The answer will come to you. Get a good night's sleep. The answer will come to you the next morning. Well, it's really the same thing. I always need to keep busy. I'm not one of those people that I get bored very easily, so I always need to have some kind of activity. Yeah. So the answer comes to me during another activity, and hey, whatever works, right? It works out well. So if something like that helps me be more efficient, it's almost a win-win situation, right? My clients benefit. I become a more efficient developer, and at the same time, I'm taking a break, helping the eyesight, doing different things. So all in all, it all contributes to a good balance.
Yeah, well, go ahead, Gus. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and see, you saying the answer came to me after I unloaded a clip sounds much better than the answer came to me this morning in the shower, which is usually my statement. Because
that has happened. That has happened several times.
Yeah.
That has totally happened as well.
I seriously think it's the white noise in there, and it's also why I like to program with headphones and music on, because it pulls my brain away from what I'm doing and concentrates on listening to the music, and everything can just flow out. And it's weird how it works, but that's how it works for me.
And everybody's, brain is going to help out. It's going to work a little differently. So,
I was just going to say one, because I'm one of those that if I don't say it, I'll forget it. Is one of the things is the theme here though, and for people who are listening to this. We aren't doing a live demo tonight, but it's okay because you're going to get just as awesome as content as if we were. But the theme here is to be doing something, and I'm genuinely, when I genuinely say that, I mean that it's not one of those things you can stare at the ceiling about. It's one of those things that you have to be actively involved in another activity of some kind. Because I think a lot of the times, especially like what I've been taught from other people is, just take a breath and maybe walk away. No, you need to be engaged in another activity.
That you hit the nail on the head right there, JJ. If you walk away, you're going to continue thinking about the problem, and the whole point is that you stop directly thinking about it and let your brain indirectly think about it. And Gus is into firearms as well. He'll tell you that when you're shooting, you're concentrating on doing that activity correctly. You have to. It's an activity where safety is a big factor. And besides, there's techniques involved to do it right. So you have to, when you're driving, when you're racing a car, you have to be concentrating on that. So I think that these problems get solved because you stop thinking about them and your brain started working on something differently. And of course, subliminally, it kind of still is turning the hamster wheels back there.
Yeah, because your brain's always got to solve it.
If you get up and walk away and stare at the ceiling, or go outside and sit down and take a break and look at the trees, all you're going to do is continue to hammer away at that problem in a very direct way, and I don't think that's going to solve it.
Or watch TV. Don't do that. People, don't walk away and watch TV, because that's kryptonite, man. You're done.
Does YouTube count?
Look, we can't go down that rabbit hole. And the other thing too is I was working on new music because I created the music for our shows and stuff like that. As I'm doing that, I'm like, this is like just a giant while loop, and I'm coding out this music. I'm like, holy crap! But then it allowed me to solve a couple of things that I was doing, and I think, like I said again, the key thing here is to be doing something else. Yep. Actively engaged in that something else.
Besides, at the end of the day, it's also fun. Everybody needs something else besides tech. Everybody in our business needs to take a break from tech. I used to take a lot of pride in saying my hobby and my work are exactly the same thing. You know what? There's no glory in that anymore, man.
I know.
I'm 47 years old. I got other shit to do. I want to write a lot of code, and I want to go up and do other stuff, man.
That's number 2. All right. So just for Kevin. Kevin, you're looking for 2 of them right now.
Oh, okay. You got an editor. That's right.
Yeah. I got an editor on that. So, Gus, why don't you kind of mix it up a little bit and ask your next question?
Actually, I'm going to rewind a little bit
or not, just completely do what
I'm actually going to hit something that you guys were talking about earlier, and that's how to structure your day and actually go about making sure that you get through your tasks. And one of the things that I've been talking about recently, and actually I talked on another podcast about, is how to be a good consultant or a good employee. And I think that maybe we should hone in on a couple of the things that you do, Miguel, to actually make yourself successful every day so that your clients get what you promise.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us how your normal day goes?
The best answer I can give you to that, something I feel very strongly about, is to attack things one task at a time and to make them realistic tasks. I try not to let any one task go beyond a day. And if I basically set mini goals for myself, almost in an agile kind of way, mini goals for myself on a daily basis. I mean, I'm working on a system for my customer, my primary customer right now, and every day in the morning I know exactly to what point I want to take this application to, and it's very, very task focused. You know what I mean? I need to have this part functioning 100% by the end of the day. Right. And if I just focus on that and not on anything else afterwards, I usually get that one done. And more often than not, I'll get it done earlier, and then I can start on the second one. A lot of times, I won't start on a second one if I feel that's going to be an all-day task. And I end up cutting the day short at 5.5 hours, 6 hours or so. That's fine, because I just move into some Pluralsight stuff. You know what I mean? I have a number of hours, that an understanding with my client on a certain number of hours that I won't exceed a month. So I try to break out my month where I don't eat up all those hours just in the first 2 weeks. I spread the project through the month, so I always stay active in it. You know what I mean? And that makes it a little easier for me. Other tricks. Oh God, I know this is gonna probably sound dumb, but having a really, really good client makes every difference in the world. I know that's a bad answer because you got to be prepared for any kind of client, right? But it all depends what kind of position you're in, and are you in a position to turn down clients? I have turned down clients that I don't want to work with, that I feel is not going to be a good fit, a good relationship. I think a good fit with a customer for a consultant is crucial. If it's not a good fit, none of you are going to benefit. You shouldn't be, consultants shouldn't be in it just for, I mean, obviously we do this for the money, no doubt about that, for a really good paycheck. But if you don't have a good relationship and you're not a good fit, you're not going to deliver the best product possible. And that's going to be bad for the guy paying the check. He's going to be angry. It's going to be bad for you. Your reputation is going to go down the drain. I truly find that it is better to turn down work that you think you're not going to be a good fit for. A good fit can be defined in a number of ways. It can be defined by a skill set, definitely. Sure. Like I would not tackle an iPhone or Android project because I'm not an Android or iPhone developer. If the client really wants me involved, I will oversee a project's architecture and then subcontract out pieces, and I've done that in the past. But there's a lot of stuff that I will just say this is beyond the scope of my skill set. I wish my auto mechanic would have told me that a while ago. That sounds like a story for later. That's another story, yeah. So I truly have found a good zen with the customer that I'm at because we established this relationship about 4 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, and during 2 years between 10 and 11, 2010 and 2011, I was 2011, 2012, I was at another client. Yet I still kept in touch with this company, and they were always, when are you done? We'd like to use you for some stuff. And they waited for a couple of years. And 2 years later, after I finished with the project that me and one of your other guests, Brian Noyes, were working on together in Connecticut, this client snatched me up immediately, and we established a really good relationship going in. You know what I mean? They valued my expertise, which is always good, and it's always flattering, and it's not to be taken for granted. So I'm very careful about what I advise them. What do I advise them? Because to them, I'm not just another headcount. I truly am a consultant. They're going to take my advice very seriously. Sure. So I'm very, very careful about the advice that I give them. And if I feel at all unsure about something, I tell them. And I tell them, this is something I can't help you with. I can try to find somebody that can help you, or you can find somebody, but I can't in good heart give you advice on this because it's just not my area. So by limiting myself to where I can truly help them, and luckily for me, I'm a full stack developer, so that spans a lot, web and desktop and back end. I've been able to keep a good relationship with them and always make sure that I set realistic goals and deliver what I tell them I'm going to deliver. Part of that is, of course, setting realistic deadlines. You got to be willing. This is a part where you do got to be willing to say no. There's a lot of clients out there, and I've encountered them. I had one client. This is a company. I won't say the name of the company, but it's in the pharmaceutical business here in New Jersey. And the woman that ran the team on my first day told me that they are you're going to love this term, a date-oriented shop. How the hell are you supposed to take that, right? I'm thinking right away that means I can or cannot date people here.
I know, that's what I first thought.
Right.
Wait a minute,
So,
I don't.
What that means is that when their users or when their powers to be or whatever says we need the following app or the following functionality added to an app, before even talking to anybody about what it's going to take to do this, they put a deadline on it, a date on it. That's what she means by date-oriented. So now it's up to me to work to that date. Sure. And this, I've had this in several clients before, and this is an accident waiting to happen. It's a recipe for disaster because what happens is that you only got a couple of choices here. The first and best choice is to say, you want all of this date cannot be met. And hopefully they will listen to you and you'll be able to renegotiate it. Unfortunately, that doesn't work with a lot of clients. Right. It works with mine. That's why I try to give me and my client work very closely together, trying to establish what the requirements are and what date deliveries are.
Sure, sure.
But this particular client was not like that, and this has happened a couple of times in my career where they say, no, this is the date that we already told everybody in the company that it's going to be delivered. We're going to have a town hall to announce this product. This is like a Dilbert cartoon, isn't it?
Right. So this is the Apple event, right?
And
like this has to be done like right now.
Well, what happens? What happens is you at that point something's got to be sacrificed, right? What's the old triangle about? You can have it good, you can have it cheap, you can have it fast. Pick two, right? At that point, something has to be sacrificed. So usually, what has to be sacrificed is functionality. And I've had this happen more than once, where the project is so unrealistic that the delivery date is met, but what's delivered is a skeleton or something that's lacking 50% of the features. The funny thing is, the client was okay with it, which is really strange. That the only thing that they were fixated on was the date itself and not the product and the needs of the product, which still to this day kind of puzzles me.
Yeah, that would. I would think to myself, why wouldn't you just want the product done? That's like people who don't want to spend money to make money. That
Right.
It's the same kind of concept of like, well, then why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Like, what? So, like, you want something to have it all the way done and it completely working to your specifications, and then you may or may not buy it. It's like that kind of business is very strange. It's very.
Yeah.
Somebody
that was a good idea.
a friend of mine who I don't think you've had on the show yet, but I have a very good friend of mine owns a consulting firm out in Santa Cruz. His name is Lino Tadros, and Lino gave me. I asked Lino this question because he's a very successful guy and he runs a really successful shop. And I asked him, well, I mean, we've had dinner many times. I've been out to his house several times, and I asked him once, what made Falafel Software so successful? What is your secret for? I mean, people ask me that question all the time, but I'm not at the top of the totem pole, for crying out loud. I'm just a humble developer. I ask this question to guys above me all the time, and I think it's important that this question is asked among our peers.
Oh, definitely.
And his answer is still with me to this day. It's a very, very simple answer. Treat both my employees and my clients like gold.
Yes.
That's his answer. It's a very, very simple answer, and some people out there are probably saying, "Oh, well, that's common sense." No, you gotta. How do you define treating a client like gold?
Right.
Treating a client like gold is not delivering 100% of everything they ask you to do. Is also knowing how to negotiate with them and how to tell them, look, this is just beyond my expertise. I'm not going to waste your money. There's been several times with my current client that I told them I don't want to sit here and just eat up your hours and make a few more $1,000. This is not going to benefit you. And I've been hammering away at this, and it's just we're going down the wrong path. We just had it recently. I just did a whole redesign on something that I was working on because I got to the point where I really felt what they asked for was not a good user experience. I felt very strongly about it. I laid my case out in a document, and I went to the head guy, the guy with whom I have a really good relationship, and I told him, if you really, really want this done this way, I don't think your users are going to like that. I can continue hammering away, but I truly think that we're wasting time and you're wasting your money. Because I can't do the job for free. I got to tell you right now, we just need to stop. Cut our losses and let's take a step back and rework this entire thing. And he thought about it for a day, and he came back and he agreed with me. And I've been working along on the rework for the last 3 or 4 days, and it's been going beautifully. And I'm very happy with the user experience. I'm going to demo it to them tomorrow. I'm very confident they're going to like what I have to show them. So those kind of things, knowing when to say no, you're wrong, you went down the wrong path. Let's take another look at this. Let's work together and reanalyze this. That's what I think treating your clients like gold means. That's what I think treating your clients like gold means. Not just yesing them to death. You can't yes them to death. That's really the wrong path.
No, definitely, and overselling is also the wrong path.
Yeah,
what I was going to say is I'm going to quote one of our other guests, John Peterson, who threw this one out. Also, don't bring your religion to work, right, as a consultant. In other words, not praying religion or spiritual religion, but your software religion. Just because you like to do something one way doesn't mean that it's the only way that you can do it.
Exactly.
Go in with an open mind because they're actually paying you to do work. But like you said, know how to say no or know how to say this isn't going to work. And give them the reason why and give them a choice to back out.
Absolutely.
If they don't back out after due diligence, there's nothing you can do about it.
Absolutely.
But at least you're there giving them good counsel and making sure that they understand what you're talking about.
Yep.
And I think that rings true, and I think a lot of consultants are more, yes, I'll do that, yes, I'll do that, I'll work late because I'm making more money, not because it's a good thing to do.
Sure.
That's just numbers, and that can bite you in the butt big time.
Definitely,
Yes,
definitely.
really
I'm glad it's a good point on that. Getting on to another topic really quick, what do you think of the new iPhone 6? Have you seen anything on it yet?
Okay, oh yeah, I saw the keynote, I saw the whole thing, and I participated in a thread on the Pluralsight authors list that was kind of interesting. Okay, I'll give you my opinion. I love it. I think it's great. I think they've done a great job. It's getting hammered by the Microsoft community, which is really strange because one of the things that I've always noticed in the past is that the Apple community has always been real bashing to the Microsoft. You know, the big monolith Microsoft wants to control the world, right? Wants to dominate everything. We humble little Apple guys here, just a bunch of hippies. All we want to do is work with our products. You know, leave us alone. The Microsoft guys have never been that way to the Apple guys. I've always found the Microsoft community pretty tolerant of everybody else. At least that's the way I used to see it until I got into this discussion. Which I won't get into the details of the who's and the what's were said, but the general consensus was very anti-Apple, which was kind of strange. A lot of people are very upset about the Apple Watch because it locks you in to the Apple platform. Yet something else to lock you into the Apple platform. Like I'm already not locked in enough with iTunes and with Apple TV, and you know my view on that may not necessarily be the coolest or the one people will agree with. I'll take the easy way out with an answer. I don't mind for certain things. I don't mind being locked in. I'm always looking. It's just like development. I'm always looking for the right tool for the right job. In the stuff I use in my everyday life, I'm looking for the right device for the right job. And it just so happens that when I started using an iPhone and I got into iTunes and using iTunes for movies and TV shows and especially music, of course, having a device that cleanly integrates with that, having a single device to carry around. I stopped carrying around. I own 260 gig iPods, which I don't use anymore because I just use the iPhone because I just want to carry around one device. I also use, because I use iTunes on one of my screens, that big 30-inch monitor that you can't see that's off to my left here, because I have five screens in front of me here. Because I have iTunes on it, it made perfect sense for me to get an Apple TV. And you know what? I haven't put a single CD in my CD player upstairs in years because I just stream the music right off Apple TV. I can rent movies. It basically solves the measly problems that I want solved. You know what I mean? Sure. As far as the data is concerned, and the data is really what's important here. You know, I use Gmail, and I have all my contacts and calendar and everything in Gmail. You know, the iPhone, I have the iPhone 5 here. It integrates nicely with Gmail, as any other phone does and should. Yeah. So as far as the Apple Watch being tied to it, it doesn't bother me because I'm an iPhone user, so I'm obviously biased. I'm not going to change out of this. I am going to get the new iPhone 6 because I like it. I haven't decided which one I'm going to get because I want to hold them both. Well, I want to hold them. I want to hold them in my hand because I do think that the Nokia 1520 phablet is too big. So the iPhone 6 Plus is supposed to be 5.5 inch. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, so that's 6 inches, right?
My face, you know what I'm saying?
That's quite large, and you know it's not the size of the device; it's the one-handed usage, which I really am very insistent on. So, sure. I was very happy because the rumor that I had heard was not true. I had heard the rumor. I've been wanting 128 gig on my phone for a while, and Apple's they pushed it off significantly, and I get criticized on this all the time. It's just like the 5 monitors thing. You know, I put a picture of my office online, and I actually get hate mail. I got one guy that said, "You're such an idiot. Why do you need 5 monitors?" That was his response.
Yeah.
I would tell you what I told him what to go do with himself, but I don't want to make a lot of work for your editor.
Sure. Thank you.
You know, so the same thing. I get hammered. Why do you need so much gig? Just use iCloud. Well, I don't want to use iCloud. I choose not to. I don't use Match because my music collection is way too big for iTunes Match. It just blows it out of the water. I don't want to use iTunes. I want to carry what I want to carry on my phone. Leave me alone and let me deal with my life.
No, I'm the same way. It's my music, and I don't want to rent it. That's
exactly.
another thing too.
And I buy everything that I buy. I don't pirate music. I buy everything that's on here and that's on iTunes. So I'm a good boy there. And the rumor was that only the 6 Plus was going to have 128 gig, and the 4.7 inch was going to stay at 64. And we found out that's not true. They're both going to make a 128 gig model. So now it's going to make my decision a little harder. I got to see which one I really like. Before, I was going to go with 128, so I was going to go with the 6 Plus. But now I can relax and see which one actually fits my hand a little better. Yeah. As far as you go ahead. I'm sorry, Gus.
No, I was going to ask you because I've seen you do this before, and I've actually seen you crash a Microsoft Sync Ford stereo in person. What do you think the 128 gig machine is going to do to that stereo if you load it full of music?
To what machine?
The Microsoft Sync. Remember Rocky's truck? You actually rebooted the stereo. And
yeah, but you don't know. But it doesn't load the whole thing.
Well, but I'm just wondering if you try to get a playlist with a couple 100,000 tunes, what that's going to do to some of the Bluetooth auto pieces.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know. Once again, I don't want to seem like a total ass about it, but I only care about how it works with my cars.
Exactly.
It works with my cars. I have an iPod adapter in my Mustang, and I have one in my wife's car, and I've never had a problem. It was 64 gig. I've never had a problem Bluetoothing music on rental cars, so I don't suspect it'll be a problem. You know what? If it is a problem, that's what this little sucker here is for. You see that?
Yep, exactly.
It's an earphone jack, and all it takes is to plug this in here and plug it into the aux jack of a car, and away you go. See, there's a solution to everything. Right. So I've learned, guys, not to sweat the little things. Okay, it's like marriage. Okay, don't sweat the little things. The Apple Watch got hammered on the thread because of the tying into this, and people started saying, well, I mean, you can't have touch on a watch device. It's not going to be a good user interface. Well, obviously they didn't watch the keynote. I mean, one thing that I can count on Apple doing is always getting a really good user experience on a device. They've never had a problem. Say what you want about Apple. No one can ever say that you ever need an instruction manual to operate any app on this device.
No.
And the watch is exactly the same way. They have this little crown, they call it a crown dial, I think it is.
Yes, the Royal Crown digital dial.
No, it's not. It's not Royal Crown, you alcoholic. It's a crown dial.
No.
Digital. I don't think the word royal's in there.
Yeah, they say that it was normally called the Royal Crown dial, but it is now going to be known as the digital crown. Okay. Dial.
So if you watch their operation with the dial, and then just slight touch here and there, it's going to be a really nice UX. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's great. I think the apps that are going to be on it are cool. The way they work with the phone. I mean, did you guys see the keynote?
Yes.
Did you see the Apple Maps and the way you get the turn-by-turn on the phone, and you don't even have to look at it because that'll tap you left when it's time to turn left or turn right if you're walking through the streets. And I've used this term. I've used the turn-by-turn on here to walk me. I used it in Houston when I went to Tech Ed this year to get me to the restaurant. Now, and I'm walking around the streets of Houston like this, right? Just waiting to when I have to turn. And now it'll actually, it taps you. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's supposed to be able to tap you where you feel it on the left or the right of your wrist. So
that's
it'll tell you when it's time to turn left or turn right. These are little things that Apple's always been very good at. Just a tiny little details of a user experience that really differ the term user interface from user experience. The 6 Plus, which is going to be the big screen, has that feature where you double tap on the home button and the entire top half of the screen moves down so you can reach it with your thumb so you don't have to use your second hand. Nice. I mean, that's an ingeniously simple little idea that I don't think anybody else has thought of.
Well, two quick things before you go any further, because I do want to listen to the rest of what you have to say. But two quick things. The one being almost everyone didn't know this for some reason. I'm not sure why. That Apple designed the iPhones to be used explicitly for one hand, like one-handed use. Like if you were on campus, they were all using it with just the one hand. Like they never designed it for two-handed use.
I have never, I don't think I've ever in my life sent out a text like this.
Yeah.
I've learned how to type with one thumb.
You didn't get the Ryan Seacrest typo or whatever. No, I'm just messing.
No,
with
I never turn my phone horizontally for typing. I use it like this. I am totally a one hand. There's actually an Apple commercial that talks about the thumb and how it moves this range, and then the iPhone. You know, is this a coincidence? We don't think so. You know, that kind of thing. It's a pretty decent commercial.
And then the other thing, speaking to let's not look at this thing as necessarily ecosystem. Let's take all that out of this conversation for just 1 second. I use tools because I do carpentry work and I enjoy working with my hands and things like that. And I don't care if coal or if just some random like cobalt or whatever. I don't care if it's a good tool and it gets the job done. I use that tool to get the job done, and because nothing makes me happier when I'm doing something is doing something efficiently, right? Like having something done and not having any headache. Like I use multiple devices throughout the day, but I use them for their design purposes for me. And I think this idea of it's kind of weird, right? Because we have the ecosystem wars, and then we have the people who are fanboys and who are trying to resist the urge to get locked into an ecosystem, but yet it would actually make their lives a little bit better, and they could maybe play in two different ecosystems. There's a way for that to exist, but there's so many barriers that individuals put up for themselves, not only in just what we're talking about now, but in programming and coding, and not wanting to reach out and challenge oneself to learn different things and say, hey, you know what, this other tool, it scares me a little bit, but hey, the next thing you know, I started using it for everything because it was the most fast, effective, and efficient way for me to get this done.
Because it works. You know, you could only abstract back so much, right? We say that in development. At some point, you're going to have some unavoidable coupling. Same thing's going to be in life, man.
You should never have to work at something for it to work for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally agree. And we can fast forward back to last week's episode with Mark Miller, where he showed his new keyboard that helps him
that was awesome.
Connect into CodeRush and be able to do his job a lot more efficiently, which is really cool. I don't know if you've seen that yet.
No, not yet. It's on my list. It's on my to-do list to watch that show. Anytime Mark gets in front of a camera, it's always something that needs to be watched.
Yeah, he started to. I didn't stop. Like I was like, okay, I'm walking away. Like water or whatever. Like this dude was like the whole.
You think you can shut me up?
No.
I wouldn't try to shut you up anyways. But Jesus.
Spoiler alert: the show was like an hour 20, and I think he talked for an hour and 16 of it. But every bit of it was really good.
It was gorgeous.
And that's not a bad thing, but it was fantastic. I mean, he even built a webcam app so that he could have a secondary webcam connected and over his keyboard. So he could watch him do it on the screen.
That's very cool.
Yeah, it was actually really cool. Yeah, but that going back to it, it's that whole UI design, right? The ability to do something fast and efficient.
So go back, Miguel, if you can, to that back and forth between the Pluralsight guy. Not just because I like drama, but what was the issue? The
issue was the lockdown. The lockdown was a big thing. Nobody bothered to say that the Samsung watch is locked into the Android. You don't hear nobody complain about that.
I was going to bring that up, but
well, the truth is that I let the thread. I delete threads most of the time on a lot of these lists just when they don't interest me. More often than not, the Pluralsight threads I read because it's I like to say it's really the cream of the crop. I mean, you got pretty much some of the top people in the industry are Pluralsight authors. So 99% of the time, when one of them has something to say, it's worth listening to. It really is. Just all it takes is for one person to get on a rant. to drive the thread in a different direction. It happens everywhere. It happens on the ASP insiders list. Before you know it, the conversation is not even about what it was supposed to be in the beginning, you know? And this one went on for more than a couple of dozen emails, and it was just one bash after the other, and it really got to the point where I felt the tone was the next person going, let me see, what negative thing can I say now? And that's what they were, you know what I mean? And
it's the best parts of the internet coming out at that point.
Pretty much. And I said, I did what I usually do, which is just sit back and listen and then finally come out and say something when I feel it's time. And I did. And I started by saying, don't bother bashing me. I'm not going to be responding to you. and I haven't. Funny enough, I didn't get bashed. What happened is what usually happens in situations like this, you know, where I'll get some emails that say, thank you for finally saying it. You know, there's other people that are thinking the same thing, but they just won't put it out there. I'm usually the one that they're waiting around to just wait. Miguel will put it out there, you know. He's the one with the big mouth. But all I did is bring up the fact that this has just gotten extremely negative. I mean, if you think you guys were locked into buying this device, it's clear that all of your Windows phones develop. You say so yourself in the thread. So fine, stay with your Windows Phone. I think Windows Phone is a fantastic device. It's a good device. I just happen to like this, and I have devoted an awful lot of energy and time into this device and its sister devices and its sister technology, and I really have no desire to turn away. Not because I feel locked in and oh crap, now I'm locked in by Apple. I have no problem with it. I'm enjoying it. I love using this device. I love using my iPad. I love using iTunes. I love watching Apple TV. You know what I'm going to be doing in December? Pioneer's coming out with the Apple Play car stereo. So because I have a pretty expensive stereo that I had built for my Mustang, you know, professionally done, and the only thing I don't like about it is the stupid head unit, because the UI it was written by somebody that was on Quaaludes. And it's just a really Pioneer has some horrible UIs. The user interface it's really horrible. My wife just bought a new Forester, and it's got the same problem. The UI absolutely sucks. You want to see a UI that is second to none in a car stereo and navigation system is Honda or Acura. They use the same one. It constantly gets rated as the #1 in the world, and it's no surprise because it's just a great UI.
I didn't see the Honda, but I did notice the Acura, and I was like, whoa.
Well, I had an MDX, and I'm almost regretting not buying one now. I may wait a year and then try to get out of my Forester lease and get into another MDX, just because I missed the damn user experience. User experience sells a lot, man. It really does.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And there is a lot of good things about the Windows platform in general. And if you don't mind, Gus, I'd like to ask both of you guys this question. How does development, and this is a big question, but how does development go forward with these wearable devices and these different ecosystems? Are we going to see more people, more developer companies, more of a web app scenario where they're not necessarily platform agnostic or whatever, but there are a lot of similarities where they don't want to have to write to specifics, right? So you're going to see a lot of content that is going to be kind of duplicated a little bit, starting with iOS, and then it's going to look an awful lot like iOS if it ever comes to Windows, and then when it goes to Android. So
you're asking me or you're asking Gus?
I'm asking both of you.
Well, no, I don't think so. I think that was fine in the in this footprint and the iPad. The whole do everything on the web. You know, what is the product that they use? PhoneGap, I think it is.
Yeah, PhoneGap.
It's a very noble effort, and it works. I mean, you know, the apps work fine. I think that there's definitely a difference between a PhoneGap app and a native app. But as we get into other types of devices, I think it's going to be a case-by-case basis. In the case of a watch, I don't know if you can go that agnostic route, because one thing the Apple Watch does not do is allow you to surf the web. You know, it does what makes sense to be done on a device on your wrist, just like this does what makes sense to be done on a device of this platform. I've always said, what was Windows Phone 6.5 and prior? What was their ultimate failure? That it was delivered as the same, quote unquote, the same familiar desktop interface that you love, on your phone. Well, that's not what we want.
Right,
we don't want that. We want a totally different interface on that, and that's why this has succeeded.
Right.
But this could only go so far, and if we get lower than this, some things need to be, a lot was sacrificed to go from this monitor to this device here, and a lot is going to be sacrificed to go from this to a watch. Now, that sacrifice is not a bad term. It's a good thing, because you want to just bring the stuff that you need onto your wrist, and a browser is not going to be one of them. It really is going to be a native app market on that device.
So more specialties then.
I think so. I think we're not going to have much of a choice as far as code sharing. I don't know if I could only give an educated guess / opinion here, because I'm not a diehard mobile developer. I do mobile web, exactly what we just finished talking about with ASP MVC, as a matter of fact. But I don't do iOS or Android yet, and I haven't gotten into Windows Phone. Not because I don't want to, just because like we said at the beginning of this session, I'm just way too busy.
Man only can do so much in one day.
Yeah, but yeah, I think we're just going to need to, I think if we're going to do any kind of code sharing, definitely on the back end, that stuff could always be shared, right? I mean, these devices hopefully will carry, will make a lot of calls to, the app is going to hopefully store a lot of stuff on the cloud.
Awesome.
We've already reached that point. I mean, even games that we play on the iPhone now all store their score and everything on Game Center,
right,
so that you can go to your other phone or you can go to your iPad and you can pick up the game where you left off without losing your high score and stuff like that. So all of that stuff is all going to be cloud stored. So all that code, of course, is common. But as far as the UI stuff, I don't know how much is going to be shared. I don't suspect a whole lot. I may be wrong. I look forward to somebody that's listening, that's a diehard mobile developer, to tell me that I'm wrong and explain why.
This is why you're wrong, and this is how this could be solved. And if you have that answer, please let me know too.
Yeah.
Because I would really be interested. But you're up, Gus. I'm curious to see what you have to say.
I've got kind of a little different approach. I think you're right, Miguel, that the UI stuff will change. It has to, because of the resolution. Sure. And even with the resolution, you can't touch small little icons with your finger on a small little itty-bitty touchscreen. It's just not going to work. That being said, however, I think that we are probably going to see a lot more applications hitting multiple platforms. So in other words, the wearables will be across the board. I share the feeling that I don't think the Apple Watch should be tied to Apple, but then again, I also have the same feeling about the Android Watch not being tied to Android.
At least you're fair.
I also hit the third spot where I'm very upset that Microsoft doesn't open some more of its APIs so that the Pebble Watch can be more functional with the Microsoft phone and platform. But I think in the future, I think we are going to see a little bit more of the wearable technology, and they are going to be across the board. That being said, I don't think the three major players, Microsoft, Android, and Google, Android, whoever, and Apple, will ever open up their platforms, because that makes them different and separate and allows them to compete.
That's a good thing. Somebody actually said that on the Pluralsight forum today. The great thing about this kind of lockdown is that the others will do it as well, and it forces competition, and competition forces innovation.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Which is always a good thing, man. At the end of the day, I'm a geek, and that's a totally different perspective on all this. Okay, I watched this keynote yesterday and salivated, because at the end of the day, I just wanted to see the gadgets, man.
I know, right?
I've been longing for another iPhone to come out for a while. I've been waiting for the extra RAM. The rumor was going to be called the iWatch, but they called it Apple Watch. The Apple Watch has been under rumors for 2 years now. So it's one of those things that, the Apple rumor mill is second to none, right? There's websites dedicated just to Apple rumors. So the fact that they announced one is, I just salivated at it. I'm like, this is really, really cool. And I found myself smiling as the guy's doing the demo on it. And I thought that was a cool thing. It's a gadget. I mean, who doesn't want another gadget? Look at this. Look what I got here. I got a whole garage full of tools. But I saw this the other day, and it's a Stanley pocket phone pen screwdriver. Do I need another goddamn screwdriver? Of course I don't.
Kevin, that's 5. Just a heads up.
There you go. But you know what? It was cool as hell, and I don't have a screwdriver in my computer backpack, so now I carry one more thing in my computer backpack, a little screwdriver.
So
why? Because I love these little gadgets.
I know. I'm just like you, and my wife was like, seriously, I'm going to put you on one of those shows. You're going to be on a hoarder. Like this back, everything that I've got cleaned up was because I literally almost got smacked across the face. But no, Mike, the other thing that I want to talk to you about is, and what I'm going to start asking all of our guests, because I think it's important, because I talk to a lot of people who are into programming. We haven't been doing it for all of that long. Right, so let's just say between maybe 5 to 7 years of programming. So really, that's not a lot, but that's enough to get yourself into trouble or get yourself out of trouble. My question to you is, looking to the future and how these things are done. And I'm going to go on a little thing, but I promise you I'll come back to it. Is these technologies and these gadgets are going to start hitting certain price points, and those price points are attached to certain types of people, right? That you got your low income, your barely middle class that we have, and then just people who can afford the stuff, right? Or maybe people who think they can afford it but really can't, and the next thing you know, they're getting bailed out, but whatever. And
it's usually the ones that drive BMWs, but yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, exactly. So, so my thing is that with it being $350, with us not really seeing what the APIs look like, what the code would look like to write to something like that, with businesses having to deal with this BYOD and having to deal with a security and having to deal with all of these different variables that we see in the market, what would you, if you could go back to a younger Miguel, first starting out in programming and coding, what would you say to go ahead and invest a majority of your time being in that would produce the kind of, if you wanted to on the side, work consumer, but you still had a business-centric focus type of language or platform or something of that nature? I know that's a lot, but I mean, I really want to know what your thought is on all that.
I want to make sure I understand your question. Was that a complicated way of asking what sector of technology you would advise somebody to focus on if they were to focus on one thing to
and then how to write to that thing? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the most obvious answer would be to try to find a common denominator across the board. You got Microsoft desktop applications on some companies. You have Java desktop applications on some companies, right? You have on mobility, you have all these different platforms, all native languages. These are all different skill sets that are needed, right?
Right.
The one thing that everybody seems to use is web technologies. You know what I mean? I've always, and this almost contradicts what I tell clients when they tell me, oh, we're a total web shop. I always like to approach things app by app, but what do you want the app to do? And let's decide whether it should be a web deliverable or a desktop deliverable, not just squeeze into the web 100% of everything. But if I understood correctly what you're asking me, if a developer has got to put his time into a single platform, I would probably say the web platform is the safest because it's the most ubiquitous.
Okay.
Both on the desktop and the mobile side. So while a web developer couldn't do something for Apple Watch, they certainly could do something for this. I mean, I can tell you that one from experience. I'm not an iOS developer whatsoever. I can probably get away with becoming one using Xamarin, of course, but I'm the farthest thing from an Xcode Objective-C developer right now. However, I have written websites that have mobile versions that deliver nicely on this particular platform right here, and they look exactly the same on an Android and a Windows phone. So the bragging aspect of that is that yes, I've written a mobile app that works on all the mobile devices, and in fact, all I've done is written a web application, of course. Right. So it's a skill that I've been able to leverage in a more ubiquitous way than my desktop skills.
Almost.
Yeah,
right?
My desktop skills. I'm pretty heavy in the desktop world too, but my desktop skills are in the XAML spaces, and that's obviously a Microsoft platform.
Right.
I can't help you if you got Sun Microsystems sitting on your trading desk. You know, which, and I use that as an example because that is exactly the case in a lot of Wall Street firms.
Yeah, no.
That's why they hire a lot of Unix guys.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
So did I analyze your question correctly, and did I answer it okay?
You did. No, it was gorgeous, and I was just getting ready to compliment you on and thank you for that, because I think
I want to add something to it, but go ahead.
No, I think a lot of the times it's really easy for people just to throw off and phone an answer like that in, and I really appreciate you taking out the time to really answer it in a way that you think is,
well, you actually made the question sound vaguely important. No, what I want to add to that is that it's a great time to be a web developer. It really is. If I wasn't a web developer, I would actually say I envy the web guys, but I do both. Like I said, I'm equally in the desktop and web spaces and the back end, so I'm full stack. But I don't know if I might have mentioned this the last time we spoke several episodes ago. I'll briefly repeat just a two-second version. But when I left the project with Brian Noyes, who was one of your guests just a few weeks ago.
Yes.
When I left that project, excuse me. Me and Brian spent 2 years doing nothing but WPF, so I was embedded into the XAML MVVM arena. My mind worked a certain way. I solved problems a certain way. Mm-hmm. And then I left that client, the project finished, and this client that I'm at picked me up, and the project they wanted to do was completely web. And some of the stuff we talked about, it was obvious that they wanted a very rich UI, very rich client-centric, client-oriented experience without a lot of trips, I sweat it because I was, before my WPF days, I did a lot of web form stuff, but web forms relied heavily on web control suites and post backing and stuff like that. And sure, we all did JavaScript back then, but not as heavy as we probably should have. And I dreaded how I was going to get into that. And you know, when I was introduced to the current libraries out there, Knockout and Angular, for example, which are the primary ones that I use, everything just made sense and fell into place. You know, MVVM on the web, I can practice the same architecture and patterns that I did on the desktop on the web, and it was really, really easy. I dreaded having to do everything in jQuery. You know, I got jQuery junkie friends that say I can do everything in jQuery. I can solve the Middle East crisis with jQuery, right? Sure. And jQueries are great. I don't want to take anything away from John. It's the guy that wrote jQuery. Sorry, dude, I forgot your last name. But the guy that wrote the Secrets of the JavaScript Ninja book. Anyway, he's the author of jQuery, and he did a great job with that. But at the end of the day, jQuery is about manipulating the DOM. And if you got to manipulate the DOM, you might as well do it the easiest way possible, and that's what jQuery brought to the picture. But to have a lot of DOM manipulation take place based on user interaction, it still makes for a lot of code and a lot of dirty code, not very easily manageable code, and definitely not easily testable. And having a library like Knockout for binding, or a full framework like Angular, of which binding is part of its chores, has been not only a tremendous lifesaver, but it's been a joy to get back into the web spaces. Anybody that has avoided the web spaces because they feel they can't do a lot of the things they did in the desktop, you're absolutely right. You still can't do 100%. Your desktop's always going to be the richest platform. No mistake about that. But that doesn't mean that we're still in the same old web world that we were even 2 years ago. It's changed radically, and I'm heavily into the Angular world right now. I'm doing a lot of Angular, and it's not only saved my life in what I can do and design and deliver for my clients, it's made working with the web really, really enjoyable, which is not something I can say back when I was doing web forms. And I enjoyed working with web forms, but man, I had to jump through a lot of hoops just to get something done right and to get a nice effect to work properly, and then forget about what I was doing in the late 90s with classic ASP, because I come from that world as well. That was a disaster, and I was always very proud when I got something to work and look right, because it was so hard to get it to work and look right that I, number one, felt relieved that I was done, and number two, I was proud as hell. I felt like I was conquering the world. Now I can do so much with either Angular or Knockout. Obviously, Angular is a much bigger framework. That it's almost a no-brainer to give a user a a single-page-like feel.
Right.
And notice I said single-page-like feel. I don't believe in the single-page application. I believe in single-page silos, SPA silos scattered throughout your application. But to navigate to a view and be able to render that view from the server, and from there on, everything on that view interacts only on the client and does it in a rich way. Then you throw something like Bootstrap in there, which gives you a lot of nice little UI niceties. Right. A lot of people don't like it. I happen to like Bootstrap. At least it's a great place to start. Mm-hmm. It's made the web a pleasure to use again. So if you're a developer that is looking for JJ's original question, what can I put if I wanted to put all my eggs in one basket, something that I rarely recommend, but if that's what you were going to do, and my answer being look at getting into the web spaces because of its ubiquitousness, the web spaces have changed dramatically, and they're really a joy to work in today. And thanks to all these libraries that we're getting daily bombarded with, but they're saving our skin in quite a lot. JavaScript is a first-class citizen, boys.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
no longer the little scripting language of the 90s.
Beware when you follow JavaScript. I know I'm not saying this is a bad thing, but when you follow them on Twitter, your stream is going to go from maybe like a waterfall just to like it's just going to come down. You're just like, holy, what the? I can't even. I'm going to have to slow this down.
Wait. You mean the actual? There's a JavaScript Twitter account that you're talking about, a specific one?
Yeah, I think it's JavaScript Digest. Hold on. If I just wait 1 second, it's going to show up.
I don't know if I want to do this.
Yeah, I don't know that you do either.
Hold on.
That's kind of scary, guys.
It's going to make a liar out of me now. What should I tell you?
Of course it is.
Oh.
We're live. Demos never work live.
Yeah.
There's JavaScript Daily.
That's it.
That's it?
Yep.
Let's see. The one with only 85,000 followers. I expected a lot more.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so they only got 2,800 tweets. Are you sure we're talking about the same?
Man, that sounded right.
I mean, I got more tweets than this account.
Yeah, that's definitely not that. Hold on.
Yeah, this one doesn't seem right. With only 85,000 followers.
I'll look it up.
Yeah, find out what it is and post it.
I will.
Yep, we definitely will.
So obviously we're because Gus was like, hey, I got to get out of here a little bit early, and then the next thing me and Miguel was talking about. I got to say, Miguel, I always really just and I'm saying this truly, I love listening to you talk about this stuff, and I really appreciate you being our first guest and then coming back and doing this again. I know you get to talk to Gus all the time, so this is a little bit me and you time. You know what I'm saying? But because you get to hang out with him and, I don't know, unload a clip. And I don't. So, but I really appreciate you being on the show. And
we're going to unload a lot of clips next week.
Yeah. I hope so.
So speaking
I want to make sure your viewers understand that is not a sexual thing.
Right. That's
right.
Well, even if it was, I'm okay. Hey, every download, I love every download. I'm willing to whore myself out a little. So, tell us a little bit about what you have coming up. I know you said you're scaling back a little bit, but what kind of announcements do you have coming up?
Well, I've scaled back during the first half of the year. Last year at this time, I already had about 70,000 miles. This year I got 25,000, believe it or not. I haven't flown a lot this year. I'm probably going to make gold by the end of the year, and I'll use escrow miles that I have to boost me up to platinum. I have next week, well actually no, my next thing coming up is this Saturday. We got New York City Code Camp at the Microsoft office in New York.
Awesome.
So that's unfortunately it's been closed out because it gets filled up pretty quick there. But we got that going on. We got some big names coming in too. John Peterson's driving up for it. Brian Noyes is coming up for it. Phil Japixi is coming up for it as well. So we got a really good VS Live crowd. Because me, Brian, and Phil Japixi are VS Live regulars. So we got a nice VS Live trio that's going to be there. And it's always a good bunch of speakers. New York's got a really good community, and at the end of the day, that's really what CodeCamp should be about. Forget about the ringers. I mean, they bring ringers in so they can get the crowd in, but it's really about the people that want to speak that normally don't get a chance to speak. And it's really never disappointed before. I attend a lot of sessions there, and I've never been disappointed. Next week we got Dev Connections. It's a quick in and out for me. I'm flying in Tuesday, flying out Thursday, but I'm looking forward to seeing my buddies John and Gus there, and a couple of other guys that I know will be there. There's some good speakers that are going to be there. Brock Allen's going to be there. Ted Neward is going to be there. Chris Love's going to be there. So there's some good names. And then I am done for the month travel-wise, which is good because I got some pretty big commitments this month, which is why I made this Vegas trip in and out. Besides, it's my fourth time in Vegas this year. And then next month, I got VS Live DC in Washington, which is a new venue for VS Live.
Awesome.
And then I'm going out to Denver to see Gus and do some business with his company. And the big month for me is November. November, unfortunately, I think I got like a week that I'm at home. Between Tech Ed Barcelona, NDC London, and VS Live Orlando, I got 3 weeks of traveling. So I'm not exactly looking forward to it, and I'm not looking forward to being away from my family. But unfortunately, there are certain things during the year that I get pre-committed to, like a year in advance.
Right.
Yeah, and I can't. You okay them because you're like, it's a year away, but a year is now past, and here we are, and I'm already dreading it.
But
it is what it is.
Last day things not working out too well the next day.
You do what you got to do to put food on the table. So I don't want to. There are a lot of people that I don't want to disappoint, and that I would not say no to. I mean, I said no to a few conferences this year that I normally would do, but Richard calls me and wants me to do Dev Intersections. I'm not going to turn him down. I'm not going to let him down. He's counted on me for a lot of that stuff. And I'm not going to let a good friend like that down. Especially, it's a good conference, and I really enjoy doing it. Same thing with VS Live. I would not want to let the guys down. I've been speaking with them for a long time. So there's certain things that I just bite the bullet and commit myself. And if I overcommit, then so be it. I'll just deal with it. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're not so good. That's how it goes. Gus, what do you have going on?
Well, next week I have Dev Connections. I'm going to be with Miguel, and we're going to hang out for a little bit. And then actually, I'm going to see Miguel more in the next month than I think I have in the last 3 years. So.
Yeah,
I don't know if you should be excited about that or.
We'll let you know on the next episode with Miguel.
Yeah. Right.
He's going to come out and visit me. But other than that, Dev Connections is the only thing I have until November. So other than that, I'm just going to be working, and doing podcasts. So it'll be fun for me. How about you, JJ?
So we have Strange Loop. We're going to be covering that. Miguel, I don't know if you've ever had a chance to check that out, but it's really hot. There's a lot of really fun stuff going on. So if you ever have a chance to in the future, you're always welcome to come down here and to St. Louis and be a part of that. But we also
Strange Loop is an event?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a 3-day conference. Okay. A lot of like more your JavaScript type stuff, like MongoDB, a lot of your stuff that's not necessarily mainstream, but it's really, really cool. A lot of really awesome stuff happens. But we're going to be at Strange Loop. We're going to be at Startup Voodoo, which is kind of like a South by Southwest type thing for St. Louis that they're trying to do. Downtown. We're also we launched our very first episode of the Tech Inform Us with Mary Jo Foley as our very first guest. Nice. She was wonderful. She's a great person, a great human being. She was an amazing interview. So I can't thank her enough for that. But we're doing that show as well. We also have St. Louis Days of .NET coming up, and we're going to be doing. That is
November. It's right before VS Live Orlando.
Yeah, that's how it was last year as well.
Yeah, the 13th through the 15th, and we're going to be doing a pre-compiler session. We're going to be talking about how to our pre-compiler session. You walk in and then walk out with a working deliverable Windows 8 app. Well, at that time it'll be a Windows 9 or whatever, but you'll get you get the gist of it.
Sure.
So that's what we'll be doing, and we're very excited about that. So also there's some stuff that I'm sure I'm leaving out, but I'm running out of time. So I really wanted to get this in here. I met a cancer survivor last night, and it reminded me that I needed to do this. Charities everyone should know about is Hope Line. It's a domestic violence prevention program. Support organizations. You should go check that out. The Women's Safe House. Also, you can Google or Bing it, whatever your fancy. Safe Connections, Schumann Water Project, and then my favorite, Hope for Young Adults with Cancer. So please go to those organizations, donate just $1 or $2 or whatever. I'm not going to pull the whole Ethiopian, guy with a white beard on you, but just go and do something nice for somebody else. It's always a good thing to do that.
And please give to ALS without doing the stupid ice bucket thing.
Yeah, right. So funny story, we did that, but maybe not so funny. Gus, thank you again for all you do. Your final thoughts on the end of the show, sir.
I think we got through some really cool stuff, Miguel. Thanks for coming on. I can't wait to see you next week in person.
Can I share a gadget with your viewers before we? So I got this sitting on here. I picked this up, and I'm going to pick up some more of them because I want to install them around my house. So what this is, it's an outlet. You see the outlet? It fits any regular outlet, but what you can't see is, you see the USB ports left and right there?
Oh, nice.
Is that nice?
Yeah.
So you replace some of the outlets around your house, especially the ones close to your couch or something like that, or in your office desk, and you can plug USB charging right into it. One of them is 1 amp. The other one is 2.1 amps. So the 2.1 amps can charge an iPad, and the other one to charge an iPhone.
Perfect.
That's awesome. Okay, and guys, I found out what it was. It's at JS_digest. So it's JavaScript Digest on Twitter. Okay.
Perfect.
Anyways,
no, that's impossible. You mean the one with 7 followers and 5 tweets?
No. JS_digest.
Oh, underscore.
Mm-hmm.
You're killing me here.
I thought I said it right the first time, but I'll side on your side just because I like you that much. So again, Gus, thank you for everything that you do. Miguel, thank you for coming back on the show again. We really appreciate it. I appreciate it as well. So from the entire crew, we love and thank you for your support of the show. Everybody listening, from the entire STL Tech Talk crew, good coding, we're out.